Hello, this is my review for the 2019 film Sea Fever, directed by Neasa Hardiman and starring Hermione Corfield in the main role. Now, before we get into it, I'd just like to say I've watched a little bit of playback of my previous reviews, and the whole Snow White mug, unicorn mug thing, it's just got to go. It's just not working for me. So no more girly mugs. I've got my Resident Evil 2 mug today. That's much better, and might not be a horror mug every time, but it's going to be a little bit more manly. Okay, so that's the first thing out of the way. Now, Sea Fever. I first heard about this film on a radio spot, I believe, around about the time it came out, and it was described as a film that had some interesting visuals. It wasn't afraid to do its own thing. It sounded quite good, so I kept it in mind. Then completely forgot about it. And just this past week, I spotted it on the sort of Sky listings for free if you got the subscription. So I thought, right, I'll give it a watch. So here we are. The film is about a kind of 21-year-old marine biology student who has to go on a work experience trip on this fishing trawler. And she doesn't particularly want to go. They don't particularly want her to come along, but the university's paying them, so they kind of have to. So straight away, with this setup, I was immediately behind this protagonist, because I remember from my own uni days the whole having to go on work experience, 6-week placements. It's never good. You're never paid. The place that you're going to invariably doesn't have anything to do for you. They're just taking you on, and you end up making coffee for people and not even learning anything. So interesting setup. The character that Hermione Corfield is playing, who I believe is called Siobhan, she's not exactly a complete bookworm. For example, she knows how to deep water dive, but at the same time, when she meets these blue collar fishermen and fisherwomen at the start of the film, it's very much a kind of culture class of, there's things out there in the sea that you won't find in any book, lassie, that kind of deal. But the script doesn't go into that as much as it could have done. In fact, the people on the trawler are actually more bothered about the fact that she's got ginger hair, because apparently that's a really bad luck thing at sea. If somebody's got ginger hair, it's bad luck for the voyage, apparently, and they're genuinely annoyed about it, which is quite funny. So this trawler sets off, and after a day or so, it just randomly bumps into this giant squid thing under the water, and the squid just latches itself to the trawler. And they shake it off easily enough after a bit of elbow grease. They manage to get free and get going again, but the damage has already been done. What the squid has done is it's secreted some kind of poison thing through the hull or the wood at the bottom of the ship, and it's managed to get into the water supply. So now there's death and disease on board, and everybody's getting sick one by one, and panic, dying, and there's the horror movie right there. So what you've got is basically a kind of cabin fever at sea. I'm not massively into horror films where the big threat is a disease, but I do like horror films at sea. So I did enjoy this film, and the radio review was correct. It is a very, very visual film. Whenever there's a shot of the trawler or the sea, it looks really, really great, and it feels like a very realistic vessel. Like they've really taken the time to make sure that this is a genuinely sort of real experience for the viewer, not just a ship that's been thrown together with some dodgy interiors. It's a really good ship. It feels very authentic. The dialogue, the jargon, the fishermen come out with, the activities they get up to. It feels like we're properly immersed in a genuine, real situation, which is definitely a positive. As for the horror itself, it's very underplayed. It's not a movie with a lot of spectacle. It's like the writer thought, right, we'll set this situation up, we'll let it play out, but we'll let it play out in a very realistic way. We're not just going to add movie stuff for the sake of it. It's going to be a realistic film, even if that means it's a little bit low key ultimately, and that's fine. It does kind of mean that we're not going to get an amazing ending. The ending was kind of like, oh, okay, and there was never any point where I was sort of on the edge of my seat, but I still found it enjoyable and fascinating to find out how it played out when the paranoia kicks in, that they're trying to figure out where the disease is, how the disease is getting to them, how to tell who's infected, whether they can get help, and of course the radio's out and nobody's got a mobile phone. I don't get why nobody in this movie has a mobile phone. it feels like it's set in modern times. You would think that even fishermen, trawlers would still have mobiles, and certainly this university student would, but there's no mention of any mobile phone. It's just really weird. It's I didn't actually think about that when I was watching the film, but afterwards, when I was processing the movie, it suddenly clicked on me. Why no mobile phone? Acting in the film is very good. The woman who plays the lead role is very, very good. Hermione Corfield. I keep forgetting her name. When I checked Wiki afterwards, I thought that she would just be one of these actresses that's a complete unknown, and this was a big shot. But it turns out that she's actually got quite a few credits already. She's been in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, presumably small roles because I've seen those films and I don't remember her in them. But certainly an actress to watch out for. I think she's about 26 in real life, a little bit older than the actual character she's playing in this movie, but she played the role very, very well. Also in the movie is Dougray Scott, who I don't think I've seen in any movie since Mission Impossible 2, which was 20 years ago now. It's crazy just how quickly all that time has flown by. And it wasn't lost on me the irony that this film is about a disease on a ship, and the characters, including him, are trying to avoid getting this disease. Yet in Mission Impossible 2, he was responsible for trying to get a disease to spread out and get people, but he's fine. The rest of the cast are fine. There's not much in the way of sound. I don't remember much of a soundtrack to this movie at all. I don't remember a single sound effect. It's just a very quiet film that plays out. People die. People have to kind of work out what to do, and when we move on from there. But on the whole, I'd say very good film. I'm going to give it, it's time to swing the review axe. I'm going to give it 3.5 bloody axes. That's a good rating. It's more of a kind of Tuesday night kind of horror film. It's not bombastic enough to be your weekend horror movie, I think. You know, it's a very reserved film, but certainly worth watching, especially if you like horror films at sea. And I guess in the time of COVID, watching a film about a disease ravaging a ship might not be the most enticing thing for you, but it's okay. It's really quite good. So that is Sea Fever from 2019, and I'd recommend you go see it. So until next time, cheerio.